Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Aperture, aka Mr. Pro Shot, and welcome back to the Pro View. In today's video, we're going to be talking about what is an Fstop and what does it do. So the first thing we're going to have a look at is why is an aperture important. So basically, in summary, I have a few notes here on my computer that I'm going to have a look at to make sure that I'm giving you guys accurate information. So please don't mind if I look down at my computer and just read some of the notes that I can give you accurate information about this. So let's get right back to the video. Okay, so the first thing we have a look at is that aperture is basically a hole in your camera lens that lets light pass through. So aperture basically is a hole that's there in your camera, in your lens, basically, that lets light through. So the bigger that hole is, the more light comes in. The smaller that hole is, the less light comes through. I'll probably put up a picture on the screen to show you the aperture. So basically, we call it aperture blades. The thing that adjusts the amount of light that comes in, that goes bigger and smaller, we call them aperture blades. So the lower the f-stop you have, the less aperture blades you'll have. So meaning the aperture blades will be more wide open. The higher the aperture you have, like a let's say f12 or f21, the more aperture blades you will see, making the hole that the light can pass through way smaller. The aperture size that you use on your lens has a direct impact on the amount of light that is let into your camera. So as we were saying, if you have a open aperture, wide open aperture, you're going to be able to let in a whole lot of light that would be able to pass through your lens. Whereas if you have a closed aperture, like it's closed to its smallest, like an f22, it's going to let in a whole lot less light than if you had it wide open. So aperture plays a big part in the amount of light that you let into your camera sensor. Aperture is part of the the exposure triangle, which includes its aperture, ISO, and shutter speed. So aperture, it is part of that exposure triangle, which is one of the things that I've talked about in some of my other videos. So today we're having a look at aperture and going into more detail about what aperture is. So aperture doesn't only impact the exposure of your shot, it also impacts the depth of field of your shot. So meaning that if you are shooting at a low aperture of like f1.2, you're going to have a shallow depth of field, meaning the background behind me is going to be blurred out. So meaning it won't be in full focus. The only thing that will be in focus will be me. So meaning it will draw more attention to me because you guys can see the background, it brings more of the attention to me as a subject. Whereas if you have a higher aperture of f8 to f12, the whole background will be in focus and you can see everything in detail. Details like, for instance, now I'm currently shooting at f4. You can still see these props that I have here in proper focus. But if I were to increase my aperture, you would be able to see them more. They wouldn't be slightly blurred out. You would have them in sharp focus. The next thing we're having a look at is what is an f-stop. An f-stop is the number that your camera shows you when you're changing the size of the lens aperture. So basically, f-stop is the number of the aperture that you're using on that lens. So like, for instance, you have your f1.4, f1.8, f4, f5, and your f8, f11, and f12. Those are different apertures that you have. So the f-stop just is the numerical value that you used for the different apertures, the apertures that you have in a lens. So you have your small apertures and you have your big apertures. So aperture is just those numbers that you use. So like, for instance, a low aperture is going to be f1.2 and a high aperture is going to be f22. So the lower the aperture you have, the more light it's going to let in, and the shallower depth of field you're going to have. The higher the aperture you have, the less light it's going to let in, and the more depth of field you're going to have. Because of that, that is why most photographers or portrait photographers like to use your lower apertures, like your f1.4, your f2.8, and so on and so on, even your f1.2. apertures, because it gives them that nice shallow depth of field to a point where probably just find that the subject's eye in focus, and then probably their body is also going to be in focus, but their background has that nice bokeh around it, so all of the concentration is on the subject of the picture. So that's why we love to have lenses with low apertures, very low apertures, because it gives us that pleasing bokeh, that nice look, creamy bokeh on the sides that brings the attention to the subject of the picture. I hope you guys learned something from this video. If you did, guys, please do leave a like and a comment, and please don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. It encourages me to make more videos like this. Just leave a comment down there saying if you want me to do more videos like this, explaining different things in photography, and sharing my experiences in the photography world. Until the next video, this has been Fstop, aka Mr. Pro Shot for the Pro View. I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you very much. Catch you later.